Little Girl's Shadow by Evan the Nerd, 83. In the winter moonlight, the shadow of a little girl falls on the front porch of a house at the far end of a street. The shadow knocks on the door. Jenny, the occupant of the house, is shaken from her sleep and stumbles out of bed. She opens the door, and she jolts back at the sight of a shadow standing in the doorway. "I'm sorry, but can I use your phone? Mommy left me at the mall, and I need to call her," it whispers, and Jenny hesitates. She doesn't want to let it in. She wants to slam the door in its dripping face. But she can't fight the urge to help. It's cold out, and the shadow is crying, white tears down black cheeks. Jenny reluctantly steps aside, and the shadow shifts inside in a flash. She closes the door, but the shadow isn't there when she turns around to face the living room. She's not completely alone, though, because the crackling fireplace starts to dim, and the room grows colder and colder. Jenny feels something on the back of her neck, fingers tickling down to her spine. Goosebumps rise. Darkness envelops the house, and Jenny can't see anything after a while. Everything fades to a static, chill black. The spirit of winter soon consumes her, and she's never seen again. A Winter's Sacrifice by Evan the Nerd, 83. "Please," said his father, "and give her back." The boy could barely hear him over the screaming wind, the shrieking storm. Snow had begun to pile up. Heaps of ice jutted from an ocean that stretched into the horizon. Now, his father couldn't take a single step without stumbling. "Please!" Something pelted his naked body. Hail. But he didn't feel it. He couldn't feel anything. Nerves frozen and useless, and overwhelmed by the deep chill. Everything was so cold. So cold. "Please!" It had been an hour. Mom hadn't come back. She had left them. Walked out the front door, despite his father's warnings, his begging and crying. She had to go out. She would take Amy's place. Amy would rejoin them in the cabin. But no. "Give her back!" They had waited. Amy hadn't knocked. "Give her back!" His father had cried and cried. "Give me my wife!" But not for Amy. Never for Amy. "Take him!" And not even for him. As his father raised him higher, the storm would only scream. Thaw by Psyopticnerve. Those who bear the bitter bite of a dark northern winter may know of the voices the season brings. On the many dismal, frigid nights where the wind threatens to take the door from its hinges and you can never get the fire blazing hot enough, They grow louder, disembodied whispers that seep in through any skin left exposed and linger in your ears just long enough that they cannot be dismissed as imagination.
We are hungry. We are starved. We are but skin and bone. We must eat. We must eat. We must.
I despair that it is true, and I beg of you to leave me be, I mutter, idly watching the flames dance upon the logs. Frothing crimson juice, there is life yet, in sticky red death. An image comes to me as I gaze into the fire. A pack of wolves before the carcass of an elk, intestines spilling forth, steaming in the frozen air, feasting, tearing, snarling, hidden behind their cold yellow eyes. Have they remorse? The logs have nearly been reduced to ash as I ponder this. The chill that replaces the roaring flames finally wakes me from my trance. I have been dreading the short journey I must now take for some time, out into the vicious wind and blinding snow to the woodshed. The path my footsteps made on my last outing have long since been buried in a sea of white, and I struggle to pull the sled behind me. All the while, the voices follow.
Lay upon the ground. Sleep. A thawing corpse comes spring, to be devoured by beasts, and never know the pain it brings.
I tell you, leave me be! I bellow, retreating inside the meager shelter of the woodshed, shivering, quaking, my hands and feet numb, and desperate to be warmed by the hearth. I rolled the first log to the chopping block, only to find that the hatchet is not wedged within. It is nowhere to be found. It cannot be inside the cabin. It simply cannot be there. I made sure never to bring it there. I would never. Back out into the blizzard, stumbling blindly. The voices linger, coming to me in fragments.
Upon the ground. Let memory sleep. It will be better this way.
The room is dark. I can just make them out as I attempt to strike the match, their sleeping forms too silent and still to be caused by an ordinary slumber. The feeble flame illuminates the hatchet resting beside the bed, stained and accusatory. Their skeletal faces leer up at me. All of their flesh, all of their sustenance has been stripped from the bone. Please, please, children, have mercy on me. Their voices are fading as the snow covers me, drifting farther away.
We know that you were hungry, Mother. We know that you must eat. You must eat. You must.
Until all I have left is remorse. Avoiding the Storm by Psyopticnerve, It hasn't snowed yet this winter. Bare trees and dead patches of grass that are usually made more palatable by blankets and drifts of white loam outside the windows, like corpses that were never buried. It makes it difficult to keep from wandering into the darker corners of the mind and ruminating on the inevitability of that final moment that awaits us. Thick, wet coughs come from down the hall, the kind that sound as though they have clawed their way out of the lungs, struggling against one another to be the first to escape. A few seconds of breathless gasping go by before they return. I wait outside the door once the fit subsides, wondering if I should enter. After a minute of silence, I retreat. This is what they told me it would be like at the end. The endless parade of grave-faced doctors and specialists who I'd encountered during the months prior. They had only been words then, almost meaningless, just as meaningless as the reassurances they gave me about how strong and supportive I was being, as meaningless as telling her she was brave in the face of certain death. She'd wanted to be home when it happened. She had insisted. She'd refused hospice or at-home care. She wanted to be with me, and only me, in our home for the little time she had. I'd done my best to make her as comfortable as possible, dutifully attending to her minute by minute, hour by hour, day by day. That's all she had left, they told me. It was only a matter of days. Those days turned to weeks, and now over a month, into the dead of winter, and still not a single flake has fallen from the sky. Yet the clouds above are dark, billowing, brooding. The air around me swirls, and I sigh. It is finally here. She is awake when I return inside. Her frail body seems to have sunken into the bed. Her eyes pierce mine from behind hollow sockets, the only remnants of the vibrant woman she had been only a short while ago. "You'll never guess, dear," I say. "It's snowing outside." "I want to see." She gives a faint smile, her voice like rustling leaves. "Of course." I grip her gently, turning her over to face the window. "Beautiful, isn't it? So beautiful. So beautiful." The flakes drift to the ground, slowly accumulating. Slowly. We watch them for a while. When I finally bring myself to look back, she is blanketed by the white of the linen and the pillow held over her face. The house is much too still without her. Final. Absolute. I find myself back in the blizzard, holding my shaking hands open to the sky above to catch the furious flakes. In the warmth of my palm, they begin to melt, before dripping a dark crimson onto the unblemished white at my feet. Blood in the Snow. Unknown author. Damn it! I was leaving a trail of blood in the snow, like a path of breadcrumbs for the others. I tried to apply more pressure on the wound in my abdomen to stop the bleeding, but it was no use. I was like a stuck pig, thrashing against the hunter's spear, delaying the inevitable feast. It wasn't fair what I was doing. We had all agreed to the game and understood it was the only way we could all survive until we were rescued. Someone had to make the ultimate sacrifice so that the rest could live. I had drawn the short straw. I was to be eaten, and now I was being selfish. But I just couldn't help it. Even though I had agreed to the terms, once I saw that short straw, my lizard brain took over immediately. I had to escape. I had to get away from the hungry faces of my friends. I had to survive. I could hear them whooping and hollering like a pack of hyenas as they trailed behind me. My lungs burned as I sucked in the winter air. I felt dizzy from the blood loss. I could still feel Michael's knife in my gut, how it had slowly slipped into me after we had wrestled over it. I spotted a nook in a deciduous tree and clambered into it after throwing some fresh powder over the blood trail, making my body as small as possible. After a moment, I heard the group come crashing through the forest, maybe 50 yards away from me. I held my breath and said a prayer that they wouldn't find me. They were speaking in hushed tones at first, but then grew louder in frustration. I was their meal, and they couldn't find me, but I was so close and they knew it. I bet they could almost taste it, mouths salivating at the thought of sinking their teeth into my liver. Suddenly there was a scream, and then a great commotion. Twigs and limbs snapped as what sounded like a locomotive barreling through the trees. More screams, then a mighty roar that sent chills down my spine. What in God's name? Crying, weeping screams, then gnashing of teeth and the sounds of bones breaking. I couldn't see anything, and I dared not look. And then there was silence. And subtle, wet chewing. The sun was beginning to set before I finally heard whatever it was walk off into the distance. I peeked out from my hiding place. Nothing. I made my way over to where I'd heard the group. They were in pieces. Enormous bear tracks formed a circle around the slaughter. A single tear escaped my eyes before I bent down and began shoveling bits of my friends into my mouth, swallowing as much meat as I could to sat the hunger. I took the short straw from my coat pocket and sat it in the middle of the devastation. I had to survive. I run a hotel. In the winter, terror comes to stay. Unknown author. Close season. It's the pits. I run a small hotel. I used to run it with my wife, but she left me because of her drinking. She did not go far. I see her in the local bar, sometimes sitting alone, hunched over a bottle, sometimes with her arm around a stranger. It hurts seeing her like that, but there is nothing I can do. Believe me, I tried. Now all I can do is try and keep busy and not think. Busy is easy during the summer. This is a tourist town. We are surrounded by verdant forest, overlooked by awe-inspiring mountains. The stresses of the hustle and bustle of the city are eased away by the beauty and serenity that greet you in every direction you look. There are thousands of visitors here over the summer, and I am always fully booked and run off my feet. Come autumn, though, and the flow of tourists slows to a trickle. The first bite of cold winds swirling through the streets encourages any left to pack up and leave. Soon after, the snows come, and the road into town becomes impassable until next spring. Nature rules here, as she once did across whole continents. We cannot argue. Just make sure we are stocked up on essential supplies, our food and water and beer, and gasoline for the generators. I have a generator around the side of the hotel. It's relatively new, reliable. I finished thoroughly cleaning and checking it before I lock up the hotel for the winter. The summer, a memory. I try and make the most of the transformed town. On an early December day, I stand in the street outside my hotel, just as it is going dark, and listen to the near silence. There are 20 of us who see out the winter, and everyone else is indoors. There is no traffic on the road. The only sound I can hear is my generator purring efficiently, and the birds settling down to nest for the night. I try and savor the tranquility while it lasts. I breathe deep and take in the crisp, clean air. It's in the air that there is the first inkling. There's a smell. Slight at first, so slight you might think you were imagining it, but then it hits you. The smell of meat gone bad. Then there is a murmuring. Voices approaching. My fellow residents will be aware of this as well. The lights in their homes click off, one by one, leaving each in darkness behind drawn curtains. Only the streetlights remain. The birds have fallen silent. My heart is beating faster by now. It is cold outside, but colder deep within me. I will never get used to the fear that comes with this moment, or the terror that will linger for the months to come. The first of them appear. There are holes in their clothes, through which you can see the holes in their skin, the bones below. There is an urgency to their shuffling gait, and soon they are congregating around the streetlights, their faces turned up to them, their hands reaching out. I step silently as I can back into the hotel and extinguish the lights inside. I walk along now dark corridors and swing open the doors to the largest room in the hotel, go inside, and flick a switch. I did not close the front door of the hotel behind me, and within minutes I can smell them, hear their murmuring. I make my way to the far end of the room, wait by the smaller door there, holding it open, ready to flee. They file in, begin to fill the room until there are 100 or more, all crammed in. They stand gazing upwards, hands raised, in a kind of reverie. Some sway, some jerk and twitch. The object of their attention, the thing that has them drawn here, the disco ball in the center of the ballroom ceiling. It spins, casting out glittering light, bathing the room in speckles of red, green, blue, and silver. They are transfixed. I make my exit, hurry up to the second floor, which I have once again converted for the winter months, into a compound. I have supplies, chemical toilets, doors reinforced with steel and bolted firm. They come every winter and they stay. As long as the generator keeps going and the disco ball keeps spinning. Why do we put up with it? Why do we stay? Speaking for myself, for my wife, for the hope that she will come back to me. And because in early March, a day will come when I can see the snow melting. I will crack open my window and feel the fresh air on my face. I will hear the birds singing again. It's then I know it's safe to leave my second floor compound. I walk down through the hotel. There's usually a little damage. Scrape marks on the walls. These can be painted over. Cracked window panes, easy to replace. I head into the ballroom, look through the open doors. The disco ball is still. The generator has run out of fuel, and the room is empty. They have left us until next winter. I go get my long broom and begin to sweep the ballroom floor. I sweep it all up and put it in a holdall. When in the next few weeks I drive down to the neighboring town, and after I have loaded up on fresh supplies for preparing for the first guests of the year, I will pay a visit to the pawn shop and empty out my holdall and cash in my findings. The dented coins, the rings, pendants, bracelets, gold teeth, the things they left behind as an offering in return for a winter of sparkling light. I would like to give a heartfelt thank you to the special friends of the channel for your overwhelming generosity. If you would like to support the channel, the link is below in the description. Also, please send me your stories and poems to duchessofdarkness27@gmail.com. You can also find me on Instagram at duchess.ofdarkness and Twitter at duchessofdarkn2. I want to thank all my listeners for your kindness, your encouragement, and your support. It means the world to me. Thank you for joining me. Until next time.